There are valid criticisms out there about the fact that there is not a cohesive message coming from the Democratic Party. What's your take on that?
Well, I think the message that comes from the Democratic Party is a good message. The problem we've got, Alice, is that we have to depend upon the media to deliver it. If we have the Washington Post, for instance, caving to this wannabe dictator, and we've got other media entities that seem to rather push a narrative that will bring eyes to their newspapers or to their television sets and not really give a fair hearing or reporting to what we're doing.
Boy. So we got to talk about the Democrat Civil War. Probably my favorite topic that is now picking up steam in the mainstream liberal media. Now, I called this a long time ago. I said the Democrats, especially after the election, I was like, they're going to have to choose between the far left and sane people, right? You can't have both at the same time. You cannot have the far left loonies, right, the freak show, and also appeal to the sane people, okay? The current Democrat Party is not a big tent party. So they have to choose. If they want to be a big tent party, then they have to appeal to sane people, okay? But if they appeal to sane people, then they're going to lose the loonies. However, if they appeal to sane people, I will hope that, at least in this country, there are more of those than the loonies, right? Which, again, would make Democrats want to go to the right, to move towards the center. Because right now, they are too far left, even though they're not as far left as the ultra far left, the AOCs, the birdies. Regardless, Democrats, they know they're going to have to make some choices, okay? Shots have already been fired.
What do you think of the fact that the people who are getting the big crowds right now are AOC and Bernie Sanders? They're going around the country. Thank you, there's that same guy. I call him the always wrong guy. No, I'm kidding. Okay, but I feel like, big crowds, again, the shiny object that the Democrats chase. It's not about the big crowds that come out to you when you're talking in a festival or wherever they are. I think it's because I think Bernie showed up at Coachella. That must have been fun for the fans. It's who shows up on Election Day. And I just don't see that's the ticket. I mean, Cory Booker, I know you've worked with him. I like Cory a lot from my home state of New Jersey. Made a speech for 25 hours. Again, just whacking each other off. This is just not what's going to get the job done.
The Democrats have to learn the lesson first. Yes, focus on Trump, but learn your own lesson. You can't have this extreme wing of the Democratic Party running the Democratic Party, because it doesn't work.
So AOC was opposed to it. Is AOC part of the extreme wing?
Yes.
Wow, that was a really good question and a very direct answer.
That was direct, right? Yes.
Yes. One word, yes.
Yes.
Andrew Cuomo has come out and said, you know what? I've got to call out AOC, right? We got to call her out. She's getting too much traction, okay? There's new polls showing that AOC is basically the favorite in the Democrat Party. She's overtaking Kamala Harris, who is a left-wing lunatic. And the Democrats are saying we want somebody that's even worse than Kamala Harris.
Well, the coconut queen is falling fast. Kamala's numbers seem to be slipping in early Democrat primary polls. And socialist AOCs are starting to rise. Ocasio-Cortez is a close second behind the former VP in the latest 2028 Democratic primary matchup. And it's got this ex-CNN reporter thinking Harris should give up on her dream of being president.
Kamala Harris absolutely should not run for president in 2028. They know her name more than they know the names of anybody else. But there's been two polls out in the last 4 days, that I think should be, I don't know if they are, but they should be a bright siren, a red flashing warning for Kamala Harris as she looks at what she wants to run for next in the presidency.
And always a betting man, Nate Silver is putting his chips on AOC being the Democratic nominee in 2028.
My first pick of the first round draft is Alexandria Ocasio.
Sorry, I mean, let's say it's Substack. You can say whatever we want. That was going to be my first pick. Oh my God. We both are too much time on the AOC bus. I mean, she was going to be my first pick, and I can't conceal that now, right? Because of some of the polling, because she has this kind of progressive lane, probably not to herself, because she is younger and media savvy.
Guys, I don't mean no harm, but I gotta ask a question. Because there's a certain pattern I'm picking up with all these liberal white men, right? Why is it that these liberal white men tend to be very, very, very feminine? Okay, what's up with that? What happened to the white man, bro? I'm so serious. What is going on? Okay, I got a lot of questions. Maybe it's just the liberal whites. Okay, maybe that's what it is. But I'm just saying, I mean, like, is there not any masculine men at all? Like we know they don't have any in regards to just like Democrats, right? Elected officials. But even the voters, are there any masculine white liberal men, right? Like, is that a thing? I don't think I've ever seen it. Okay, it's very fascinating. So with that being said, even MSNBC is acknowledging that there is a civil war in the Democrat Party, right? But MSNBC, they seem to be marketing this in a positive thing, right? It's a positive thing that the Democrats are fighting with each other.
Salvador in a meeting with Kilmar Abrego Garcia, giving a record-setting 25-hour speech on the Senate floor, launching a nationwide tour drawing crowds of tens of thousands, even in red states like Montana and Idaho, all examples of a growing rift we are seeing among Democrats on Capitol Hill. But it's not about the progressive versus moderate ideological divide of the past. It is a calculated decision to not lay low. It is all about making bold moves to show constituents that you're as fired up as they are.
You're pissed, I'm pissed, we're all pissed. And we come here and we talk, but there doesn't seem to be anything really meaningful.
I don't believe that you have pushed hard enough. I don't believe that you have thought large enough. We want you to show some of the backbone and strategic plans that Mitch McConnell would have. Let's bring in NBC's Sahil Kapoor on Capitol Hill. Also joining me, we have Julie Roginski, a Democratic strategist and author of Salty Politics newsletter on Substack. I'm glad to have you both here. Sahil, you first. I'd like you to explain how this new active versus passive debate is different than the ideological progressive versus moderate divide of years past.
Hey, Alex. Well, we are witnessing a new moment in the Democratic Party. This emerging fault line from within is not about ideology. It's not about age. It's not about diversity either. It's about breaking through in this cluttered media environment. It's about action, who understands this attention economy and can leverage their platforms to gain some attention and rally voters in this Trump era. Take a look at a list of some Democratic names who have been breaking through lately. They've been in the spotlight. What do they all have in common? There's no ideological or demographic through line here. It's that they've all found a way to pierce through this moment and rally voters. That matters because Democrats are out of power right now. One of the only tools they have is the ability to shape public opinion. It's a very different moment than 2016 or the primaries in Trump's first term, including the squad primaries, where the battle was about ideology, single payer or building on the ACA, a Green New Deal revolution or some wind and solar subsidies. This time, moderate and liberal Democrats, as well as some swing voters, are enraged at Trump's agenda and perceived lawlessness. They want to see effective opposition. What they don't want is Democrats who just sort of clock in and out, who vote and go home, who call it a day. And to that end, we're seeing primary challengers running against incumbents on slogans and themes like Democrats who actually do something and against do-nothing Democrats. This is now the coin of the realm within the party, at least for this moment. They're setting aside the other issues, the other divides within the party, and Democrats who fail to meet this test, I think, could be vulnerable to a challenge from within.
And look, Julie, to Sahil's point, Senators Van Hollen and Booker, for example, they're not progressive firebrands, and yet they are commanding attention by taking action, even if those actions don't have traditional tangible results. Is it as simple as showing the base you are fired up and you're not going to play it safe by just fading into the background?
That's exactly right. Look, I don't know, aside from a couple of leaders in the House and the Senate, unfortunately, they are the leaders of the Democratic Party right now, Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries, who want to play dead. Look, I don't care where you are in the ideological spectrum of the Democratic Party. People are hungering for pushback to the lawlessness, to the authoritarianism, to the dictatorship that is creeping upon us, if not already here. There is
so you see that, you heard that. What you have here is Democrats throughout this little civil war they have with each other, right? It's just so funny because you have the establishment Democrats trying to say, okay, well, the progressive left, they're too far left. But at the same time, they don't realize, the establishment Democrats, that they're also too far left, right? You're doubling and tripling down on the woke nonsense, right? Like, how much farther left can you be than to be somebody who is advocating to go to other countries and kidnap their citizens to bring them back to the United States of America, where they were living here illegally, right? Like, you can't be more far left than that, right? And then Democrats wonder why their poll numbers are so low, right? What their approval is so low, and then they'll say, "Oh, nah, bro, it's the media, right? It's the media's fault. You guys aren't pushing our propaganda on our behalf," which that is what James Clyburn said to MSNBC when MSNBC confronted him on the Democrat Party and a decline in approval. So again, Democrats are stuck between a rock and a hard place. Okay, do you try to appeal to same people? Or do you just give in to the far left? Okay, again, the problem that Democrats don't seem to understand is that you cannot appeal to same people while at the same time being Trump deranged, right? Your Trump derangement is destroying your party, okay? Because going to other countries to rescue illegals, that is a progressive thing. You can't be more progressive than that. But that is the position that these establishment Democrats are taking because of their Trump derangement.
Yet, despite what the courts said then and reaffirmed in 2025, he was wrongly deported to El Salvador. So, that means it's a losing issue politically for the president, right? No. Again, this is a fight he relishes. As Harry Enton notes, deportations are popular.
Back in 2016, just 38% of voters wanted the government to try to deport all 11 million undocumented immigrants. Compared to where we are in 2025, 56%, the majority. The American people have come a long way on this issue, much closer to Donald Trump, and I think that's a big part of the reason why Americans are increasingly saying the country is on the right track when it comes to immigration policy, and why Donald Trump's net approval rating on that issue is in the positive.
The Democrats' approach to the issue is symbolized by Maryland Senator Chris Van Hollen's trip this week to El Salvador to check on Abrego Garcia's health and well-being. They met, and Van Hollen tweeted, "I have called his wife Jennifer to pass along his message of love." Meanwhile, while Van Hollen was in El Salvador this week, Patty Morin was invited to the White House. She's a Marylander. She's a Maryland citizen. Her daughter, Rachel, was killed by another migrant from El Salvador, a crime for which he was convicted on Monday. Rachel Morin's murder left 5 children motherless. Check this out. This is the New York Post from Thursday with coverage of that White House meeting. Patty Morin said that Senator Van Hollen barely acknowledged her daughter's execution. So was Abrego Garcia denied due process? And will that politically harm the president? Not when Abrego Garcia is sharing a split screen with Patty Morin. President Trump, wrong on the merits, right on the politics.
So they haven't figured out that, again, they're not going to be able to thread his needle. And they're going to have to figure it out soon, okay, and make a move to the right because the lunatics in the Democrat Party, they're coming for the establishment Democrats, right? If you're not woke enough, okay, David Hogg is looking to primary you out of office ASAP.
Let's talk about what you did this week, raising a lot of eyebrows here in Washington, D.C.
Just a few.
You announced this week, you're the vice chair of the Democratic National Committee, but you're raising $20 million to boost primary challengers running in safe Democratic seats against incumbent Democrats. Yes, safe
Thank you
seats.
for the clarification.
Yeah, it's causing a lot of stir. We asked James Carville about it the other day. We couldn't get you. We couldn't book you that day for whatever reason.
Well, rest assured, he's my biggest fan.
Well, so here's James Carville. Here's what he had to say about your idea. Take a listen.
The most insane thing I ever heard is the vice chair of the Democratic National Committee is spending $20 million running against other Democrats. Aren't we supposed to run against Republicans?
What's your response?
What's his plan to deal with our 27% approval rating? That's my question to him. The fact of the matter is right now, our party is in a crisis. We are seeing people lose faith in our party. They're losing faith in democracy across the country. And we need to make sure that we're getting people to vote for Democrats, not simply because we're not Donald Trump, but because we have a better message, a better option for them. Not simply the less bad of two options, as I think Carville tries to promote when he says, well, we just shouldn't say anything. Carville believes in a politics of being timid, of hiding. I believe in fighting. And that is what people want to see right now from the Democratic Party. We just saw an example of that with Senator Van Hollen going to El Salvador to say, we need to meet with this man. And yes, Democrats obviously are in the minority right now, but let's be clear, we cannot win back the majority if we do not convince the American people that our party offers something that isn't just not Donald Trump, but is substantially better than Donald Trump, that fights to lower costs for Americans across the country, whether it's healthcare, housing, or the foundational building blocks of the American dream that feels so out of reach for people, or addressing gun violence. We can't simply just hide, as Carville repeatedly promotes, not to mention the fact that, frankly, he has not won an election since before I was born. I think it's time for some new voices in our party.
When were you born?
2000.
Well, I guess that, so anyway, I can hear James Carville's head exploding all the way from New Orleans when you called him timid. And James, you're welcome back on the show next week. And
Happy to talk more.
And you can respond. Who are some of the Democrats that you want to primary? Who are some of these people that you think deserve the Democrats to focus on them in their safe seats, $20 million worth?
Well, in particular right now, what we're hoping with this effort is by announcing this, we can get a lot of them to decide not to run for office again so that this isn't necessary.
Give me one name.
Well, I have to wait to see who retires out there because we don't want to pick unnecessary fights, but we're willing to do that if our approval rating continues to be at this rate, not to mention the fact, yes, we're planning on spending millions of dollars to ensure that we're getting Democrats that are simply, this is not a thing that is just about age. To be clear, there are older people who suck, as we just saw, and there are younger people who suck as well, and people of all ages. Unfortunately, that is not specific to age. We are here to find the most effective young people in our country, truly generational leaders, and replace people that are failing to meet the moment right now that we hope step aside.
Yeah, see, now you heard that. That is David Hogg, DNC vice chair, basically saying that, yes, Democrats who are not woke enough could face a primary challenge because the Democrat Party needs to be more woke. Okay, they need more AOCs. They need to be sending more Democrats to go bring illegals into this country, right? Again, it's just so funny how the Democrat Party is destroying itself, right? They essentially have allowed the lunatics to infiltrate their infrastructure, right? I mean, they've taken over the DNC. So even if the Democrats wanted to move to the right, again, the revolt would be so bad that, again, it would rock the infrastructure of the party, right? You now have the infrastructure, like people who are running the Democrat Party, whose job is to get Democrats elected, now saying that, listen, no, you Democrats, you moderates, you can't move to the right, okay? You can't work with Trump. You can't appeal to the same people. You have to be more woke. You have to appeal to more of the progressives, or else, we're going to try to get you out of office, right? So just a really bad place that the Democrat Party's in right now as they continue to be in free fall. And you even have the Never Trumpers on CNN, like Alyssa Fair Griffin, warning Democrats that if you run to the left, if you capitulate to these far leftists, then that is not going to end well for your party. It's almost damned if you do, damned if you don't at this point for Democrats.
Or subtraction. AOC is putting out 15,000 people in places like Idaho. David Hogg is like, we got to take some people out.
Crowd sizes. We're back to this argument. Fantastic.
I mean, I'm just talking about energy.
Look, we know from the polling that, if there was, essentially you ask who is the leader of the Democratic Party right now, Ocasio-Cortez lands very much near the top of our list. We had in our CNN poll, but it's like 10%, right? So it's, the tallest of some very short folks out there. So, but I mean, look, we know that the Democrats, congressional Democrats, are polling at an all-time low with their own party. But David Hogg's job, being part of the Democratic National Committee, is to help Democrats get elected. It's not to take them out. You see it right there. I mean, the view of the Democratic Party over 29%. I mean, it's abysmal.
But that's not a bad thing. And listen, unlike in the Republican Party where they just capitulate and bend the knee no matter what's said, there's actually a process in which open ideas are welcomed. And
oh, really, Jamel Hill? Is that why Democrats had a primary, right, after Joe Biden dropped out? Oh, wait, they did have a primary, right? Is that why Democrats finagled their primary in 2024 on behalf of Joe Biden, right, before he dropped out? Yeah, again, people like Jamel Hill, I don't understand why is it that they keep inviting her on the show, because she doesn't know anything, right? She's just repeating Democrat Party talking points. That's all she's doing. And I'm actually probably going to make a video on that later today to show you guys exactly what I'm talking about. She really is not helping CNN when it comes to their credibility.
I didn't find a lie in anything that David Hogg said. There is very much at the root of it, a lot of Democrats are pissed and they want to see more action. 100%. Chuck Schumer, do you think that played well? No, they want him up out the paint.
Corey, go get him out of there.
Exactly, and like it or not, in this moment of uncertainty or tumult, if you will, AOC and Jasmine Crockett and younger people have been the ones that are grabbing. Look, you can say that all you want. Don't pray for something that you don't want.
Andrew Yang, who ran at the Democratic Party, primary, remember that? He says the Democrats should be two separate parties. Same with the Republicans. If we were a healthier country, that would have already happened.
Andrew Yang is a friend of mine. He's full of ideas that are never happening in the next 20 years. So let's just. Ranked choice vote.
It's not going to happen.
I wish.
It's a nice idea. Yes.
Listen, there's a place for both of these things. People who can be the national spokespeople for parties who energize people, fine, AOC, but you need to be able to beat Democrats. You need to be able to beat Republicans. You need people like Alyssa Slotkin who are going to win in places that Trump won. You don't win by running to the left.
All right.
Unless, of course, you want Donald Trump in 2028, which
that's a whole other story, everyone.
Yeah, I gotta say, Alyssa Farah Griffin, her warning, pretty accurate, right? If you want President Trump again, which who knows, he says he might run for a third term, right? Or if you want J.D. Vance, right? Or, DeSantis, whoever comes out of the GOP primary, then, hey, go ahead with AOC, right? Listen to the David Hoggs, right? Run the Jasmine Crockett's. You do that, right? Which is what Jamel Hill was advocating for, okay? Run the Looney Tunes, right? Bring on the freak show. That's exactly what Republicans want. That's exactly what we want. If you think that Jasmine Crockett, AOC, David Hogg, all of these other weirdos in the Democrat, if you think they have mass appeal, you are delusional, right? You are very delusional, okay? AOC is not winning a general election, right? Not at the national level. She's not going to. It's not going to happen. She can win in New York because New York, again, is basically crazy town, okay? Just like California. So, I mean, yeah, she can win there, but she's not going to win in a national election. She does not have national appeal, okay? But Democrats, I don't understand why they think they can thread this needle. They can't. And the problem is that because they're Trump deranged, they can't move to the right because they would have to give up their Trump derangement. They would have to say, you know what, maybe we shouldn't fight President Trump on biological boys competing against biological girls in sports and banning that, right? Maybe we should align with the American people. Maybe we need to align with the American people on the mass deportations. Maybe we shouldn't be out here boohoo-whining and crying over illegal immigrants who are deported back to their home countries. Maybe we shouldn't be doing stuff like that, right? Maybe we shouldn't be so extreme on these issues. And then, maybe our party would actually have mass appeal. But because they want to be extremists, because they're in bed with extremists, their Trump derangement makes them extreme, they're essentially stuck, right? They're stuck and they're going to implode at this point, right? They're going to get destroyed. That's exactly what's going to happen. But hey, we'll see. Let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.